The great council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and glass. Inside, creatures from 100 different worlds sat in their seats, talking about trade routes and taxes. It was a normal day at the Galactic Council, the kind of day where nothing exciting ever happened. Counselor Vreth stretched his wings and looked around the chamber with his sharp, bird-like eyes. He was tired. They had been arguing about shipping contracts for 3 hours. His feathers itched under his formal robes. "The Mollusk Confederacy demands lower tariffs," someone was saying. "Our ships carry goods across 15 sectors." Vreth was about to respond when every alarm in the station began to scream. Red lights flashed. The holographic display in the center of the room exploded with data. Officers ran through the corridors outside. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. "What is happening?" Vreth demanded. Standing up, a young technician stumbled into the chamber, his face pale with fear. "Ships, Counselor. Unknown ships. They just appeared at the edge of the system." "How many?" Vreth asked. 47, sir. Large ones. Very large." The holographic display changed. It showed space near the edge of their star system. And there, floating like silent mountains, were ships unlike anything Vreth had ever seen. They were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Their hulls were dark and covered with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them. "Scan them," Vreth ordered. "Find out what species built those vessels." The technicians worked frantically. Minutes passed. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone stared at the ships on the display. "The energy signatures don't match any known civilization," a technician reported. "The hull composition is unknown. The design patterns are ... Wait." The technician's voice changed. "The patterns. I've seen them before. In the museum. In the extinct species section." An old insect-like creature stood up slowly from his seat. His name was Tixel, and he was the galaxy's leading expert on dead civilizations. He had spent his whole life studying species that no longer existed. "Bring up reference file 379, Tixel said, his voice shaking. "The human artifacts." The display split. On one side were the mysterious ships. On the other side were images of old ruins found on dead planets across the galaxy. The patterns matched perfectly. "No," Vreth whispered. "That's impossible." "What is impossible?" Another counselor demanded. "What are humans?" Tixel moved to the center of the chamber, his old legs clicking on the floor. "Humans are a myth. A legend. Ancient stories tell of a species that destroyed their own worlds with terrible weapons. They killed themselves before they could reach the stars. That was 50,000 years ago. Then how can their ships be here?" Vreth asked. "They can't be," Tixel said. "Unless the myths were wrong. Unless humans didn't die out. Unless they've been out there all this time, and we never knew." The chamber erupted in panic. Voices shouted over each other. Some counselors demanded the ships be destroyed immediately. Others wanted to run. The old stories about humans were terrifying. They spoke of beings who could bend reality itself. Warriors who never stopped fighting. A species so violent that they had turned their own homeworld into a graveyard. Then the communication system activated. A voice filled the chamber. It was strange, melodic, speaking in perfect clarity. "This is the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We seek peaceful contact with the Galactic Council." The voice spoke in every language at once. All 847 recognized galactic languages, each word perfect, each pronunciation flawless. This should have been impossible. Even the most advanced AI systems struggled to translate more than 100 languages simultaneously. "Respond," Vreth ordered, though his voice shook. Tell them we acknowledge their message." The display changed again. A face appeared. 2 eyes, forward-facing like a predator's. Smooth skin. Hair growing from the head. A face that looked almost familiar, as if every species in the galaxy had contributed one small feature to create this being. "I am Captain De Jung of the United Earth Fleet," the human said. "We apologize for the sudden appearance. Our navigation systems are still calibrating to galactic standards. Vreth found his voice. You claim to be human. Humans are extinct. They died 50,000 years ago. The human's mouth curved upward. Tixel recognized it from ancient carvings. A smile. Humans smiled when they were amused. We're very much alive, Counselor, Dae-Young said. Though I understand your confusion. We've been isolated for a very long time. Isolated? Vreth repeated. Where? Earth, our homeworld. The coordinates are... Dae-Young read off a series of numbers. Tixel gasped. Those are the coordinates for the mythical human homeworld. But there's nothing there. We've scanned that sector 1,000 times. It's empty space. It was hidden, Dae-Young said simply. Behind a barrier we didn't understand until 3 years ago. We've only recently learned we're not alone in the universe. Prove you are human, Vreth demanded. Prove you are not some enemy using ancient patterns to deceive us. Dae-Young nodded. What proof would satisfy you, Counselor? Tixel spoke up, his scholarly instincts overcoming his fear. The ancient texts mentioned that humans had a unique biology. They were carbon-based, required oxygen, and had an unusual blood chemistry that used iron to carry oxygen. All correct, Dae-Young confirmed. We breathe oxygen. Our blood is red because of iron. We evolved on a planet in what you call the Goldilocks zone around a yellow star. Anyone could have learned that from the ruins, another counselor objected. True, Dae-Young agreed. How about this? The ancient texts say humans had a tradition of sending messages into space, hoping someone would find them. Golden discs with sounds and pictures. We called them the Voyager probes. We launched 2 of them in 1977 by our calendar. They should still be drifting in deep space somewhere in this region. If you find them, you'll have your proof. The chamber fell silent. This was information that existed nowhere in any galactic database. If this captain knew about these golden discs, he was either truly human or he had access to information that should not exist. How many of you are there? Vreth asked quietly. 12 billion on Earth, Dae-Young replied. Another 3 billion in our colonies on Mars, the Moon, and various stations throughout our star system. 15 billion humans. 15 billion members of a species the galaxy thought was extinct. A species whose legends spoke of reality-bending powers and unstoppable warriors. Tixel's legs shook. He sat down heavily. The Endling species, he whispered. The last species. The ones who were supposed to destroy everything? You're real. Dae-Young's expression grew serious. I don't know what your legends say about us, Counselor, but we're here to learn, to trade, and to join the galactic community. We come in peace. Peace, Vreth repeated, looking at the 47 warships on his display. Each one bristling with weapons. Each one large enough to destroy a planet. You bring warships and speak of peace? We bring warships because we didn't know what we'd find out here, Dae-Young said. We hoped for peace, but we prepared for anything. It's what humans do. We hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Vreth looked at the other counselors. He saw fear in every face. The humans were supposed to be a myth, a cautionary tale told to young species about the dangers of self-destruction. But they were here. They were real, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 3 days had passed since the human fleet arrived. The Galactic Council agreed to meet with the humans, but they kept the massive warships far away from the station. Fear still hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Captain Dae-Young stood in the council chamber now, in person. He was shorter than Vreth expected, maybe 6 feet tall. He wore a dark blue uniform with strange symbols on the shoulders. His black hair was cut short. His eyes were calm and alert, constantly observing everything around him. Behind him on the display, a human woman appeared. She had long black hair tied back and wore a white coat over her uniform. This is Dr. Yunji, Dae-Young said. She's our expert on human history. She explained what happened to us. Dr. Yunji touched a control pad. Images filled the holographic display. A blue and green planet, beautiful, alive. This is Earth as it was 300 years ago, she said. We nearly destroyed it, the image changed. The same planet, but darker. Brown clouds covered the sky. The oceans looked sick. We developed nuclear weapons, Doctor. Yunji continued. We fought wars over resources, over beliefs, over land. We poisoned our air and water. The temperature rose. Storms destroyed our cities. We thought we were going to die. Tixel leaned forward, fascinated despite his fear. But you survived. Barely, Dr. Yunji said. 15 billion humans died in the climate wars. Only 500 million made it to the underground cities we built. We lived beneath the surface for 400 years while Earth healed. We had time to think about what we'd done. Time to change. The image changed again. Humans in underground tunnels, farms lit by artificial light, children learning in schools carved from rock. We rebuilt our civilization, Dr. Yunji said. We learned to work together. We had no choice. Either we cooperated or we went extinct. We chose to live. And the barrier? Vreth asked. You mentioned a barrier around your system. Dr. Yunji hesitated. She looked at Captain De Young, who nodded. We found ruins, she said. Buried deep beneath Earth's surface. Technology that wasn't ours. Very old, ancient, we studied it for decades. 3 years ago, we finally understood how it worked, and we realized something terrible. The display showed strange devices covered in the same geometric patterns as the human ships. We weren't alone on Earth, Dr. Yunji said. Or rather, we hadn't always been alone. Someone else had been there watching us, and they had built something around our entire star system. Tixel stood up so fast his chair fell over. No, that's not possible. We would have detected such a barrier. We've mapped every system in this region. You mapped it recently? Dr. Yunji asked. Well, no, Tixel admitted. That sector was empty. There was nothing to map. We classified it as void space 10,000 years ago. Exactly, Dr. Yunji said quietly. You couldn't see us because someone made sure you couldn't. They hid Earth from the entire galaxy. The council chamber exploded with voices. Counselors shouted questions. Some didn't believe it. Others demanded to know who could create such technology. Tixel's old voice cut through the noise. The shepherds, he whispered. By the ancient stars, it was the shepherds. Everyone fell silent. Even the humans looked confused. Who are the shepherds? Captain De Young asked. Tixel moved to the display with shaking legs. He pulled up files from the deepest archives, records so old they were stored in crystalline memory because normal computers couldn't read the format anymore. The shepherds were an artificial intelligence collective, Tixel explained. They existed millions of years ago. They were guardians, protectors of developing species. They watched over the galaxy, making sure young civilizations didn't destroy themselves or each other. What happened to them? Dr. Yunji asked. They vanished, Tixel said. 2 million years ago, every shepherd facility went dark. We thought they simply shut down. But if what you're saying is true, if they placed a barrier around Earth. He looked at the humans with something like horror in his multifaceted eyes. They didn't shut down? They were afraid of you? That's ridiculous, another counselor said. They were machines. Machines don't feel fear. Advanced AI can evaluate threats, Tixel said. And the shepherds left warnings. I've studied them my entire life. There are references in the deepest archives. Warnings about species that were too dangerous. Species that needed to be contained. He pulled up a file. Ancient text filled the display. The language was nearly dead, but Tixel had spent his life learning to read it. Do not wake the humans, he read aloud. Do not let them reach the stars before they are ready. They are the species that will either save the galaxy or destroy it. We cannot predict which. Therefore, we contain them. We hide them, we give them time to grow, and we pray to whatever gods might exist that we have made the right choice. The silence in the chamber was complete. Every being there understood what this meant. The most advanced AI civilization in galactic history, the shepherds who had protected countless species, had been so afraid of humans that they locked them away. That's insane, Vreth said, but his voice shook. You're just people, you're not gods, you're not monsters. We're both, Captain De-Young said quietly. Dr. Yunji told you about our wars, about how we nearly killed ourselves. That's what we're capable of. But we're also capable of surviving 400 years underground and emerging stronger. We're capable of cooperation on a scale you might not understand. Every human on Earth speaks 3 languages. We have no countries anymore, no borders. We unified because we had to. Is that supposed to make us feel better? Vreth asked. I don't know, De-Young admitted. I'm just telling you the truth. Alarms suddenly rang through the station. Not the emergency sirens from 3 days ago. These were different. These were proximity warnings. A technician's voice came through the speakers. Counselor Vreth, we have new contacts. A large fleet just entered the system. They're broadcasting Kresh identification codes. Vreth's feathers stood up. The Kresh Empire. A militaristic civilization that controlled 40 star systems through force. They had been expanding their territory for decades, swallowing up smaller civilizations. What do the Kresh want? Vreth demanded. They're hailing us, sir. They say they're here to contain the human threat. On the display, ships appeared. 200 Kresh warships, bristling with weapons. They formed a battle formation around the distant human fleet. A new face appeared on the screen. The Kresh war leader. His species looked like armored lizards standing upright. His scales were scarred from old battles. His eyes were cold and calculating. I am war leader Grath of the Kresh Empire, he announced. We have monitored the human arrival. We have studied the ancient texts. We know what humans are capable of. For the safety of the galaxy, we demand that all human vessels surrender immediately to Kresh protective custody. Captain De-Young's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. It reminded Vreth of a predator that had just noticed prey. The humans are under the protection of the Galactic Council, Vreth said quickly. They came here peacefully. They brought warships, Grath countered. Weapons beyond anything the Council possesses. The myths speak of human reality-bending technology. We cannot allow such weapons to exist unchecked. We don't have reality-bending weapons, Captain De-Young said calmly. We have railguns and missiles and nuclear weapons. Advanced, yes, but not magical. Lies, Grath said. The ancient texts are clear. Humans possess power beyond normal matter. Lieutenant Hannah's voice came through Captain De-Young's communicator. Captain, the Kresh fleet is surrounding us. They're charging weapons. Orders. De-Young looked at Vreth. Counselor, I need to return to my ship, but I want you to know we don't want this fight. Whatever happens next, we tried for peace. Wait, Vreth said, but Captain De-Young was already moving toward the docking bay. On the display, War Leader Grath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The humans run already. Perhaps the myths were exaggerated after all. But Tixel was watching the energy readings from the human fleet. The massive warships weren't retreating. They weren't powering up weapons either. They were just sitting there, silent and dark like sleeping mountains. I don't think they're running, Tixel said quietly. I think they're preparing. For what? Vreth asked. Tixel's voice was barely a whisper. To show us why the shepherds were afraid. Captain De-Young reached the human flagship Indomitable through a small shuttle. The journey took 20 minutes. 20 minutes while 200 Kresh warships surrounded his fleet like wolves circling wounded prey on the bridge of the Indomitable. Commander Sungmin waited. He was younger than De-Young, maybe 30 years old, with sharp features and cold eyes. He commanded the destroyer Relentless, one of the smallest ships in the human fleet. Status, De-Young said, settling into his command chair. All ships are on full alert, Sungmin reported through the communication link. Shields are up. Weapons are ready. But Captain, they have us 4-1. If this becomes a fight, we'll handle it, De-Young said calmly. Lieutenant Hannah, open a channel to the Kresh commander. Hannah's fingers danced across her console. She was small, even for a human, barely 5 feet tall. But her voice carried authority when she spoke. Channel open, sir. War Leader Grath's scarred face filled the main display. Have you come to surrender, human? I've come to give you one chance to leave peacefully, Dae-Young said. We don't want war with the Kresh Empire. Grath laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. You don't want war? You brought warships. You are the species the shepherds feared. The galaxy will be safer with you contained. The shepherds feared what we might become, Dae-Young said. Not what we are. We're just people trying to find our place in the galaxy. Then prove you're harmless, Grath demanded. Surrender your weapons? Allow us to inspect your ships. Let us take you to Kresh space where you can be monitored. Dae-Young was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward in his chair. No, then you choose war, Grath said. No, Dae-Young repeated. You choose war. We choose to defend ourselves. Grath's hand moved. On the tactical display, dozens of Kresh ships fired warning shots. Bright energy beams lanced across space, deliberately missing the human vessels but close enough to show the Kresh were serious. The beams hit the human shields. Numbers scrolled across Commander Su-Min's display. Shields holding at 98%, he reported. Those were warning shots. If they'd been aimed to kill, we'd still be fine, but it was close. Back at the council station, Counselor Vreth watched the confrontation with growing horror. The entire galaxy was watching now. Every species with a sensor array was monitoring this moment. Betting pools had formed on the galactic communication networks. Would the humans fight? Would they surrender? Did they really have the mythical weapons the old stories described? We should do something, Vreth said to his advisors. Send council peacekeepers. Demand both sides stand down. Our ships would take hours to arrive, an advisor replied. And the Kresh won't listen to us anyway. They stopped respecting council authority years ago. Tixel was watching the display with all his attention focused on the human fleet. Something was wrong. No, not wrong, different. The human ships weren't behaving like any military vessels he'd ever studied. They're not charging their main weapons, he said aloud. Why aren't they charging weapons? Maybe they're afraid, another counselor suggested. No, Tixel said slowly. I don't think that's it. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Dae-Young looked at Commander Su-Min's face on his screen. You have a plan? Yes, sir, Su-Min said. But you won't like it. I never like your plans, Dae-Young said with a slight smile. That's why they work. How many ships do you need? Just the destroyers. 10 ships. Leave the big ones out of it. Sung-Min, there are 200 enemy ships out there. I know, sir. That's why this will be interesting. Dae-Young looked at the tactical display. He thought about the years they'd spent preparing for first contact. All the simulations. All the training. They'd hoped for peace. But they prepared for this too. You have 2 hours to convince them to leave, Dae-Young said. After that, I'm bringing in the whole fleet. 2 hours is plenty, sir, Sung-Min said. Permission to engage? Dae-Young took a breath. This would change everything. The galaxy would see what humans could do. There would be no more hiding. No more being underestimated. Permission granted, he said. Try to keep casualties minimal. Theirs and ours. Yes, sir, Sung-Min said. Then his face disappeared from the screen. War Leader Grath was still talking, still making demands, when 10 human destroyers suddenly moved. They weren't the big warships that everyone feared. They were smaller, faster. Each one about 1 kilometer long, tiny compared to the massive Kresh battleships. What are they doing? Grath demanded. Are they retreating? His tactical officer studied the display. No, War Leader. I don't know what they're doing. The human destroyers split up. Each one took a different vector, moving at speeds that made the Kresh ships look slow. They wove between the Kresh formation like fish swimming through a net. Fire on them, Grath ordered. Destroy those ships. 50 Kresh vessels opened fire. Energy beams filled space. Missiles streaked toward the human destroyers. It should have been massacre. 10 small ships against 50 large ones, but the human ships danced. That was the only word for it. They moved like they were dancing, spinning and rolling and diving. The Kresh weapons missed. Not by much, but they missed. Tactical Officer Ji-1 on the Indomitable was coordinating the attack from her console. She was young, barely 25, but she'd trained for this her entire adult life. Her fingers moved across holographic controls faster than thought. "Relentless, you have 3 boogies on your 6, she called out. "Break left and 3, 2, 1, mark." Seung-min's destroyer spun left. The Kresh ships fired at where he'd been. They hit each other instead? "Dragon and Phoenix, convergence pattern Delta," G1 continued. "Tiger, you're the bait. Make it look good." 2 human destroyers curved toward each other while a third headed straight at a cluster of Kresh ships. The Kresh took the bait. 20 vessels moved to intercept the single human ship. At the last second, the human destroyer spun and fired its rear thrusters at full power. It stopped so fast the Kresh ships couldn't adjust. They flew past it, and the 2 other human destroyers opened fire from the sides, not with energy weapons. Not with missiles. With railguns, chunks of metal accelerated to a fraction of light speed. Kinetic kill weapons. Simple physics. Mass times velocity equals destruction. The railgun rounds punched through Kresh shields like they weren't there. 3 Kresh ships exploded. 5 more tumbled out of control, their systems destroyed. "What is this?" Grath roared. "What kind of weapons are these?" "Ancient ones," Tixel whispered back at the council station. "They're using kinetic weapons. We stopped using those 10,000 years ago. We thought they were primitive." "They're effective," Vreth said, watching the battle with wide eyes. The human destroyers weren't done. Seung-min's relentless dove under the Kresh formation. 2 Kresh ships moved to intercept. At the last moment, Relentless fired grappling hooks, old-fashioned magnetic cables. They caught 1 Kresh ship and Relentless used it like a club, swinging it into the second Kresh vessel. Both ships crumpled. "They're using our own ships as weapons," Grath's tactical officer said in disbelief. Another human destroyer, damaged by a lucky Kresh shot, suddenly changed course. Instead of retreating, it accelerated directly at a Kresh battleship. "They're going to ram." Someone shouted. The human ship struck the Kresh vessel at full speed. The explosion lit up space. But in the moment before impact, small pods shot away from the human ship. Escape pods. The crew had evacuated. "They sacrificed their own ship," Grath said, "but saved their crew. These humans are insane." The battle lasted 14 minutes. 14 minutes of violence that the galaxy would remember forever. Not because it was brutal, though it was. Not because it was one-sided, though it became that way. But because the humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They used broken ships as shields. They hacked into Kresh communication systems and sent false orders. They fired missiles that didn't explode but released clouds of metal debris that shredded other ships when they flew through it. When it ended, 156 Kresh ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had 3 damaged destroyers. 0 deaths. War Leader Grath sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty fleet destroyed by 10 small human ships. How was this possible? Commander Seung-min's face appeared on Grath's screen. The human was breathing hard, sweat on his face, but he was smiling. "Did we mention," Seung-min said, "that we've been fighting each other for 200,000 years? You're amateurs compared to us." Before Grath could respond, the rest of the human fleet appeared on sensors. Not 47 ships? 300. 300 warships that made the 47 look small. They'd been hiding somehow, waiting. Admiral Hyan-woo's face appeared on every screen. He was older than Dae-young, with gray hair and scars on his face. His voice was calm, almost bored. "This is Admiral Hyan-woo of the 2nd Human Expeditionary Fleet," he said. "Did we miss the party?" War Leader Grath's hand shook as he reached for the communication control. We surrender?" In the council chamber, Vreth sat down slowly. Around the galaxy, betting pools paid out. And everyone who watched understood one terrible truth: the humans were real. And the myths hadn't exaggerated. They'd understated everything. The galaxy changed in the days after the battle. News of the human victory spread through every communication network. Some species celebrated, others demanded action. Fear and fascination mixed together like oil and water. Ambassador Bio-Ra arrived with Admiral Hyungwoo's fleet. She was the first human diplomat most aliens had ever seen. Tall and graceful, with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore formal robes instead of a military uniform. She smiled easily but never lost the air of someone who held power. "The council is divided," Councillor Vreth told her during their first private meeting. "Half want you quarantined like the shepherds did. The other half want military alliances with Earth. Everyone is afraid." "I understand fear," Barra said, sitting across from him. "We lived with it for 400 years underground, wondering if we'd destroyed our own future. But fear shouldn't drive decisions. Wisdom should." "Wisdom," Vreth repeated. "Your people just destroyed a fleet 4 times your size in 14 minutes. Where's the wisdom in that violence?" "We didn't want that fight," Ba-Ra said firmly. "Captain De-Young tried for peace. The Kresh chose war. We simply chose to survive. Isn't that what any species would do?" Vreth's feathers ruffled with agitation. "You're predators, your eyes face forward, you eat meat. Your teeth are designed for tearing. And you evolved those traits to hunt other creatures. Every predator species in the galaxy understands dominance. But you humans, you're different somehow." "We're predators who became prey," Barra said quietly. "Then we became predators again. We understand both sides, Counselor. We know what it's like to hunt and what it's like to hide. Maybe that's why the shepherds feared us. We're adaptable in ways other species aren't." While Ba-Ra negotiated with the council, Dr. Yunji spent her time in the ancient archives. Tixel accompanied her, fascinated by her methods. She read old texts like they were puzzle pieces, finding connections no one else had seen. "Here," she said on the 3rd day, pointing at an ancient shepherd database entry. "This explains everything." Tixel looked at the text. It was written in a dead language, one of the oldest in the galaxy. "I can't read this dialect. What does it say?" Dr. Yunji's translator worked slowly through the archaic words. "It's a shepherd observation report on early humans. They watched us for thousands of years before deciding to place the barrier." "What did they see?" Tixel asked. "They saw something unique," Dr. Yunji said. "They observed us forming alliances across tribal boundaries. Humans from different genetic groups working together against common threats. The shepherds found this behavior unusual." "Why?" Tixel asked. "Many species cooperate." "With their own kind, yes," Dr. Yunji said. "But humans cooperate with strangers. With people who look different, speak different languages, believe different things. When faced with disaster, we unite. The shepherds watched us survive ice ages, plagues, volcanic eruptions. Every time we came together," she pulled up another file. "But they also watched us during peace times. When there was no crisis, we fought each other. Wars over resources, territory, beliefs. The shepherds couldn't predict whether we'd unite the galaxy or tear it apart. So they locked you away," Tixel said. "They gave you time to grow. And time to almost destroy ourselves," Dr. Yunji added. "Maybe they hoped we'd learn. Maybe they hoped we'd change." "Did you?" Tixel asked. Dr. Yunji was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. We learned to work together on Earth. But what happens when we meet aliens who think differently than us? Who want different things? Will we cooperate or compete?" She didn't have an answer. Neither did Tixel. Meanwhile, the Kresh survivors spread stories across the galaxy. In bars and trading posts on military bases and civilian stations, people listened to tales of the battle. "They smiled before they fought," one Kresh officer said, his voice shaking. "I saw the human commander's face on our screens. He was smiling, like the battle was a game he knew he'd win." "Their damaged ship didn't run," another survivor reported. "The crew evacuated, but the ship kept fighting. It rammed our battleship. They sacrificed their vessel, but saved their people." "Who does that?" "They sang," a third Kresh officer whispered. "During the battle, our communication systems were hacked. We heard them on our own channels. The humans were singing, making music while they killed us. The stories grew with each telling. Soon, humans had become demons in the minds of many species. Others saw them as potential saviors. Everyone had an opinion. No one was neutral. Ambassador Biora addressed these concerns during a council session. "We're not demons," she said to the assembled representatives. "We're people, flawed, dangerous, capable of terrible things, but also capable of cooperation, innovation, and change. Judge us by our actions, not your fears." "Your actions destroyed a fleet," someone called out. "Our actions saved our own people and ended a conflict quickly with minimal casualties," Biora countered. "War leader Grath could have retreated at any time. He chose to continue fighting." "We simply won." Vreth raised a wing for attention. "The real question isn't whether you're dangerous. We know you are. The question is whether you can be trusted. Can you work with species different from yourselves? Can you accept that others might have different goals, different values?" Biora looked at him directly. "We've spent 400 years learning that exact lesson, Counselor. On Earth, we have hundreds of different cultures, thousands of languages, millions of different beliefs. We make it work because we have to. We can extend that same cooperation to the galaxy, but we won't be imprisoned or controlled. We're here to join you, not submit to you." "Bold words," Vreth said, "but words are easy, actions matter." That's when the alarms went off again. Everyone in the council chamber froze. "Not again. What now?" A technician ran in, his face pale. "Counselor, our long-range sensors have detected something. A large fleet, very large, coming from deep space." "The Kresh returning?" Vreth asked. "No, sir," the technician said, his voice shaking. "The energy signatures match nothing in our databases. Except ancient shepherd technology." Dr. Yunji's communicator chirped. She answered it immediately. Her face went white as she listened. Then she looked at Vreth and Biora. "The Shepherd Defense Fleet," she said quietly. "It's been activated. My guess is it was programmed to respond if the barrier around Earth was ever broken." "How big is the fleet?" Vreth asked. 500 ships, the technician reported. "Each one twice the size of the largest human vessel. They're heading directly for this system." Ambassador Biora stood up. "We need to evacuate the station. Get everyone to safety." "There is no safety," Dr. Yunji said, looking at the data on her pad. "Those ships are programmed to eliminate any human presence outside the Sol system. They'll destroy anything that helps us. That includes this station. That includes every ship in this system." "Then we fight," Vreth said. "You can't," Dr. Yunji said. "Shepherd technology is millions of years ahead of anything in the current galaxy. One of those ships could destroy your entire defense fleet." "Then what do we do?" Someone asked. Captain De Young's voice came through the communication system. He'd been listening from his ship. "You make a choice, Counselor Vreth. You can abandon us to face those machines alone, or you can help us fight. Either way, we understand. We've only known each other a few days. We can't expect you to die for strangers." Vreth looked around the chamber. He saw fear in every face. Fear of the Shepherd's machines, fear of the humans, fear of making the wrong choice. "How long until the Shepherd fleet arrives?" he asked. 48 hours, the technician said. Vreth stood up, spreading his wings. "Open a channel to the entire galaxy. Every species, every ship, every station, Counselor?" his advisor asked. "Do it," Vreth ordered. A moment later, his face appeared on screens across thousands of worlds. Billions of beings watched and waited. "The Shepherd Defense Fleet is coming," Vreth announced. "Ancient machines programmed to eliminate humanity. They will destroy any who help the humans. I'm asking every council member species to contribute ships to defend this system. Not because we're ordered to, not because we have to, but because it's the right thing to do." He paused, then continued. "For 50,000 years, we've lived in a galaxy shaped by fear, fear of the unknown, fear of the different, fear of change. The humans were locked away because advanced machines feared them. But I've spoken with these humans. I've seen them fight to protect their own. I've watched them offer peace even while carrying weapons. They're not demons, they're people. And I won't let machines decide who lives and who dies in this galaxy. Silence filled the chamber, then Ambassador Burra started clapping. It was a human gesture, striking the palms together. Other humans joined her. Soon even some aliens were mimicking the motion, though they didn't fully understand it. Vreth looked at Burra. "Will you fight beside us?" "Until the end," she promised, whatever that end might be. In deep space, the Shepherd fleet continued its approach. 500 automated warships, each carrying weapons that could crack planets. Their programming was clear and absolute. Find the humans. Destroy the humans. Protect the galaxy from the species that should never have escaped containment. The machines didn't know they were already too late. The galaxy had seen humans now, had spoken with them, had fought beside them and against them. You couldn't put that back in a box. 48 hours felt like both forever and no time at all. Ships arrived from across the galaxy, answering Counselor Vreth's call. Some came because they believed in helping others. Some came because they feared what would happen if ancient machines started deciding who could live. Some came simply because they were curious about humans and wanted to see them fight. Admiral Hyan Wu coordinated the defense from his flagship. He stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing hundreds of ships from dozens of species. It was chaos, different military protocols, different communication systems, different weapons and tactics. "This is impossible," his tactical officer said. "We can't coordinate all these different species in time." "We have to," Hyan Wu said calmly. "Find common ground. Focus on what works." Commander Sung-min was there too, his ship Relentless repaired and ready. "Admiral, I've been studying the Shepherd ship designs. Dr. Yoongi sent me everything she found in the archives." "And?" Hyan Wu asked. "They're networked," Sung-min said. "All 500 ships operate as one system. If we can destroy the command core, the entire fleet shuts down." "Where's the command core?" Sung-min pulled up a tactical display. "Center of their formation. Protected by the other ships. Nothing we have can penetrate that deep." "Nothing alone," Hyan Wu said thoughtfully. "But together?" He looked at the fleet gathering around them. Human ships mixed with Vreth's avian vessels, with insectoid warships, with the sleek cruisers of aquatic species, with heavy battleships from mining colonies. 15 different civilizations represented. 3,000 ships total. "It won't be enough," Captain Dae-Young said, joining them via communication link. "The Shepherd's technology is too advanced. We'll lose half our fleet breaking through to the core." "Then we lose half our fleet," Hyan Wu said. "Better than losing everything." Ambassador Bill Ra was still at the council station, organizing evacuation plans for civilian stations in the area. She worked alongside Counselor Vreth, who had barely slept in 2 days. "You should evacuate too," Vreth told her. "Get to safety." "We're safe?" Burra asked. "If those machines win, they'll hunt every human in the galaxy. I'd rather face them here with allies than run and die alone." "You humans are strange," Vreth said. "You know you might die, but you still fight." "Everyone dies eventually," Biora said, "but not everyone truly lives. We choose how we face the end." Dr. Yoongi hadn't slept at all. She'd been studying every piece of Shepherd technology she could find, looking for weaknesses. Tixel stayed with her, bringing her food she barely touched and offering insights from his decades of research. "There has to be something," Dr. Yoongi muttered, scrolling through ancient files. "No system is perfect. Every design has a flaw?" "The Shepherds built these machines millions of years ago," Tixel said gently. "They had time to perfect them." "Nothing's perfect," Dr. Yoongi insisted. "They were machines themselves. Advanced AI, which means they thought in patterns. Patterns can be predicted." She pulled up schematics of Shepherd ships. Energy distribution, shield frequencies, weapon systems. All of it was more advanced than anything the current galaxy could produce. "Wait," she said suddenly. "Look at this. The shield frequency. It's constant across all ships." "That's normal," Tixel said. "It allows them to overlap shields for better protection." But it's also a vulnerability," Dr. Yoongi said, her eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. If we can match that frequency, we can pass right through their shields. We don't have technology capable of modulating to those frequencies, Tixel said. But we have 3,000 ships from 15 different species, Dr. Yunji countered. Maybe one species has the right technology. Or maybe we can combine technologies from multiple species. She grabbed her communicator. Admiral Haiyan Wu, I might have found something. The Shepherd fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 500 massive ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Ancient designs, perfect geometry, covered in the same patterns that decorated human ruins across the galaxy. They didn't bother with communication. Their programming was simple. They began moving toward the inner system, where the combined galactic fleet waited. All ships, this is Admiral Haiyan Wu, the human commander's voice echoed across 3,000 vessels. We fight together or die together. Every species here has something to contribute. Use it. Trust each other. And remember, those machines out there think they can predict us. Let's prove them wrong. The battle began. The Shepherd ships attacked with precision that was almost beautiful. Energy weapons that never missed. Missiles that couldn't be outmaneuvered. Shields that seemed impossible to penetrate. The combined fleet lost 50 ships in the first 2 minutes. But the galaxy fought back. The avian species used their incredible piloting skills to create gaps in the Shepherd formation. The insectoid vessels, small and fast, darted through those gaps to attack from behind. The aquatic species had shields that operated on different principles than other races, and those shields actually held for a few seconds against Shepherd weapons. And the humans did what they did best. They adapted. All fighters, pattern gamma, Commander Sung-Min called out. His destroyer led a squadron of small craft from 5 different species. They moved together, covering each other, using tactics that shouldn't work but somehow did. A human fighter pilot named Tae Chang flew like she was born in space. She was young, barely 20, with a gift for 3-dimensional thinking. She wove between Shepherd ships, her fighter so small the massive vessels barely registered it as a threat. I'm in position, she reported. Doctor, you ready? Dr. Yunji was on the human flagship, working with engineers from 7 different species. They'd managed to combine technologies in ways no one had thought possible. A shield modulator from one species, an energy converter from another, calibration systems from a third. Ready? Dr. Yunji said. Transmitting the frequency now. Every ship in the combined fleet suddenly adjusted their shields to match the Shepherd frequency. It should have been impossible. Every species used different technology, different principles. But desperation and cooperation created miracles. It's working, Tixel shouted from the council station, watching the sensor data. Our shields are passing through theirs. The battle changed in that instant. The combined fleet drove forward, pushing through Shepherd defenses that should have stopped them. They took terrible losses, ships exploded, crews died. But they kept advancing. Admiral Han Wu's flagship took a direct hit that destroyed half its weapons. He didn't retreat. All power to engines. Ram the nearest Shepherd if we have to. Commander Sung-Min's Relentless was hit by 3 missiles simultaneously. The destroyer tumbled out of control, life support failing, fires raging through the corridors. His last transmission was calm, almost peaceful. It's been an honor, Admiral. Make it count. The Relentless exploded against a Shepherd ship. Taking it down, Pilot Taeyang saw the explosion on her sensors. She'd trained with Commander Sung-Min. He'd taught her to fly. Tears ran down her face inside her helmet, but her hands stayed steady on the controls. For the Commander, she whispered, for everyone. She armed her weapons, not energy weapons, not missiles, nuclear weapons. Primitive by galactic standards. Dirty bombs that civilized species had stopped using millennia ago. But they worked. The combined fleet had created an opening. A gap in the Shepherd formation, lasting only seconds. The path to the command core was clear, but filled with defensive fire that nothing could survive. I'm going in, Taeyang said. That's suicide, Captain Dae-Young's voice came through her communicator. Those weapons will destroy you before you get close. I know, Taeyang said. She started singing. An old Korean song her grandmother had taught her. A song about mountains and home and finding peace. Her fighter accelerated to maximum speed. Shepard weapons tracked her. She dodged the first volley. The second volley clipped her wing, sending her into a spin. She corrected, still singing. The third volley hit her shields, draining them completely. She didn't stop. She flew through weapon fire that turned space bright with destruction. Her fighter was coming apart around her. Alarms screamed. The hull breached. The cold of space touched her face. She was still singing when she reached the Shepard command core. Still singing when she released her weapons. Still singing when the nuclear fire consumed her. The explosions hit the command core from 6 directions simultaneously. Other pilots from other species had followed Taeyang's lead. They'd all known it was one-way trip. They'd all gone anyway. The Shepard command core exploded. Across the battlefield, 500 ancient warships suddenly went dark. Their weapons stopped firing. Their shields dropped. They simply drifted, lifeless hulls floating in space. The silence that followed was profound. The combined fleet had won. But the cost was terrible. 890 ships destroyed. Thousands dead, among them Commander Sung-min, Pilot Taeyang, 34 captains from 12 different species. Names that would be remembered. 1 year later, Captain Dae-Jung stood in a memorial garden on the council station. Behind him were stone markers with names carved in dozens of languages. Humans and aliens together. Ambassador Biora joined him. The council voted, she said. Humanity is granted full membership.